Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Courtney Ellis, and I am the Cloud Product Strategist for Digi International. For those of you who aren't familiar with Digi, we are a publicly traded company. We've been around for 30 years, actually celebrating our 30th birthday this year, and we've always been an innovative company. We have over 100 patents, and in 2004, we deployed the first device management network for cellular routers. And since then, we have an astounding over 100 million connections deployed worldwide. So having that many connections and that many customers allows us to talk to a lot of customers and companies who've deployed an M2M network and hear about both their successes and their failures. And interestingly, after talking to a lot of customers, one of the things that we hear over and over, no matter the size of the company or the industry that they're in, is the challenges that they face when they move from their small pilot or proof of concept to a full deployment. And specifically, some of the challenges in this involve the number of devices and the complexity that they face. So to kind of characterize what we've heard from so many of our customers, we've got the spiral of pain, as we like to call it up here. But basically, what we hear that's so common, and a lot of you that have deployed a network or are thinking about deploying a network may have experienced as well, is that your deployment will start with good intentions. You'll demonstrate workflow and connectivity, but that's typically with a small number of devices. So a handful of devices for your proof of concept. Maybe that's 10, 20, 100. But as you begin to deploy to your larger network and you get into the hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands maybe of devices, you often overlooked the complexity of doing that when you were testing your proof of concept. And the first thing that a lot of our customers have told us that they experience is reliability issues. So you start to deploy different types of hardware, different types of software, firmware versions, and all of that gets really difficult to manage. Then those management issues get even more complicated as now you have different types of devices in the field and your regression testing gets longer and longer. And then scalability issues really start to surface when your systems and processes no longer support what you're trying to do, and you often have to rebuild your systems in order to support that larger network. And then finally, security. So if security is not built into the plan from the very beginning, one security event can cause ripple effects throughout the entire network. So what we wanted to do at Digi in order to support our customers better is start to think about them in two very distinct kind of groups. So those customers that are focused on the application and solution enablement use cases, and those that are focused on network and device management. And in our mind, these are two very different things. So the application and solution enablement use cases are a lot of what's made IoT kind of such a popular buzzword and put it at the top of Gartner's hype curve in 2014. These are things like growing your top-line revenue by creating new revenue streams, transforming your business, and transforming your customer experience. But it's really overwhelming and probably impossible for a company to do that if they don't first have a very sound network and device management system in place that not only does that, but allows them to scale successfully. So at Digi, over the last several months, we have been kind of re-architecting our platform. And many of you may have seen us present when Joel presented at Battle of the Platforms the last couple of times. He was talking about Device Cloud by Ethereos, which we still have. And this is our platform kind of module focused on these application solution enablement use cases about transforming your business. But what we realized there was a big need for in the market was also just a very simple but sound and straightforward network and device management tool as well. So this is Digi Remote Manager, which is what we're going to talk about today. We actually just launched this last week, so you guys are getting the first live demo of it. So we're really excited to talk about it today. So Digi Remote Manager, in many ways, brings us kind of back to the basics. And it really allows us to focus on a few key device management use cases. So 3 in particular. The first is security. So keeping your devices individually secure and then your network as a whole secure. And specifically, a lot of our customers operate in PCI-compliant environments. A lot of our customers are in the ATM and retail, lottery, gaming spaces. So PCI compliance is hugely important. So something else that think we actually announced it yesterday in a press release, is that our platform is one of the first to be certified as PCI compliant by a validated report on compliance for level 1 managed service provider. So this is something really unique that sets us apart from competitors in the market. The second use case that Digi Remote Manager focuses on is health metrics and performance. So both the individual health and performance of devices and then your network as a whole. And we're going to look at some of those charts when we do the live demo here in a moment. And then the third is turnkey delivery of firmware. So not only your latest firmware, but on an individual device, but to devices in mass, and doing this in bulk, which is what our customer case study is going to talk about as well today. So like I said, Digi Remote Manager is really aimed to solve these three pretty straightforward but really important questions. Is my network secure and PCI compliant, if that's important? Are my devices functioning properly? And am I using the latest firmware? So the case study that we're going to talk about today is a customer of ours that is in the retail space. They are a national convenience store chain owner. And a couple of years ago, they wanted to basically transform their business and take customer service to the next level using Internet of Things by deploying internet-connected ovens. So when you went into one of these convenience stores, you basically got the same food experience no matter which store you were in. So they had great plans, and they were focused on the IoT solution enablement kind of use cases. So they thought things like, if we determine how much cooked product we have in a specific oven, then it'll determine if we need a second oven in that store. They even evaluated looking at comparing the cooked products to the actual sales and calculating write-offs when there was a difference. And so they did a proof of concept with 10 stores. And one of the things was, as the menu changed on these internet-connected ovens, basically someone would have to go out and with a USB stick update the menu, which was essentially a firmware update. So when they did this proof of concept with 10 stores, that wasn't inconceivable. They sent a person out when the menus needed updating, and that was fine. So they began deploying to the larger network, and so they have 800 stores, but well before they even got there, last year alone, they were doing 26 updates on each oven, and so you can quickly see that there's a huge scalability problem there. Definitely not feasible to send someone to 800 stores to do 26 menu updates a year. And so this is when they came to us, and they wanted to evaluate a simpler system that helped take out the complexity of these firmware updates so that they could focus on these IoT use cases, the solution enablement, these fancier use cases that their CEO and everyone wanted to talk about. So switch over to the demo here. So when you log into Digi Remote Manager, you will be shown what we call the device health dashboard. So this gives you kind of a really quick glance at the state of your network. So you can see your different device health statuses. You can see all of the alarms in your account. You can see if you have push monitors or pull monitors set up, and then the different connection status. So are all of the ovens online? Are some of them offline? So if we drill down into a more specific list, you can look at all of the ovens and all of the devices in list view. We've got kind of the standard grouping over here. So we've got our Battle of the Platforms group, which we're going to look at in a minute. You can also use the map view feature. So this is a national retail store. Our headquarters is in Minneapolis. So we've got a few devices connected here in Minneapolis. You can see as you drill down to the details. And then, of course, if you want to search for a specific device, you can do that as well. So this device in particular is sitting at our headquarters in Minneapolis. And when we load it up here, you're going to see information about the specific device. But one of the really cool things about our Digi Remote Manager is the ability to, like I said before, the second use case is really looking at the state of the inventory and the health of that device. So you're going to start to see metrics for that device, both real-time and historical. So in this graph, we're looking at the connection history. So it looks like it's been connected since the 24th. It went offline there briefly for a minute. We can look at latency information. You can look at signal strength, so you can get specific down to the second. You can zoom in now with the interactive maps to get to exactly what you want. This device is telling us its data usage because these are cellular connected ovens in the stores. You can look at packet performance and interface connectivity. And these are just some of the examples. Basically, what you can look at here is whatever your device is sending up. So, this is all great, and you can do firmware updates from here. But what's really important and what we really need to do for this customer was to give them the ability to scale successfully and do this quickly. So what they're using also is our scheduling operations feature. So under schedules, you can create a new schedule. And here on the device, you can see all the different commands that you can do on that device. So if we wanted to do a firmware update and a reboot, it's a drag and drop interface. It's really easy to manipulate. You can add a firmware update. Then on the next screen, you can schedule this to run in the future or immediately. Again, this is really the power of being able to scale at large. So if we don't want to run this right now and you want to have less people working on your system, you can scale things for the future, and then you can also apply it to certain groups. So in this case, we're going to do the firmware update on the Battle of the Platforms group. So that's our quick demo to show you some of the tools that our convenience store customer is using. So after doing this, they achieved some pretty impressive ROI results. First is a cost savings of $27,000 annually. So this came from a couple of different places. One was the cost of the USB stick itself that they were shipping to the site, the cost of the shipping. Then they had to burden labor, so someone drive time plus actually getting to the site to install. And then they actually destroyed all of these devices after. So $27,000 annually in cost savings gave them a break-even point after just 10 firmware updates in the first year. And if you remember, they did 26 last year, so we used 25 to kind of calculate the positive return, and they saw $430,000 positive return. And in year 2, they predict that after just 5 firmware updates, they're going to break even, and then they expect a positive return of $550,000 a year. So the most exciting thing to us is not that this customer, saw great ROI results, but that it's really not that unique. And a lot of our customers are seeing this, and it's not that hard to achieve the type of results that this customer saw. If you keep three key things in mind. So the first is to plan for scalability early. It's critical to do this. As you saw in the example of this customer, they didn't. They planned for 10 stores, and then by the time they were trying to get to 800, it was impossible to keep up, and they had to go back and rethink some things. So it's critical to plan for scalability early. The second is you can actually achieve some really attractive ROI results through very simple and straightforward device management use cases, which is why we created Digi Remote Manager. So there's a lot of hype with IoT around creating new revenue streams and transforming your business, and that's all very real and possible, and we're lucky enough to have helped customers do that ourselves. But in order to get started, this is something that you can focus on, and then in our customer's example, now they are able to scale successfully and can focus on some of those IoT, more solution enablement use cases that they were evaluating originally. And then finally is to focus on your core business processes. So this customer and all of our others aren't in the business of device and network management. And that's why using a tool like Digi Remote Manager and letting us do that for them is so important so that they can focus on their core business. And that's it. Thank you.